gathered here to talk about supporting sponsors and Ukrainian refugees. We're a Seattle hub that works with Welcome.us. There are 3 organizations that work here, and together we support sponsors who help find their way around helping Ukrainian families. And we're really, really thankful that you all gathered here. And thank you so much for doing what you do. This is a big thing, and we want to help you on this road. So there are 3 organizations that work together right now, helping sponsors, and this Ukrainian Community Center. We'll introduce our own organizations, and Nashi Immigrants Health Board and Ukrainian Association of Washington State. So today our agenda, first we're going to introduce ourselves, and then Team Parsley from USCIS is going to talk about just in general the United for Ukraine program, and then you'll be able to ask any questions that you have about it. And then we have Chris from Welcome Circles, and he also is going to talk about his agenda and about how sponsors can cooperate between each other to help Ukrainian families, and just answer any of your questions that you have about the process and how can you be supported on this process and this journey. So yeah, and you'll be able to ask any questions that you want. So first I won't take too long, but I'll ask Oleg from Ukrainian Community Center. He'll introduce himself and what the organization does. So I'll welcome him. Yeah.
Thank you. Hello everybody. Hey Chris. My name is Oleg Pinda. I'm Executive Director of the Ukrainian Community Center of Washington, which was established back in '98 with a goal to help at that time former Soviet refugees who started arriving to this country. With the time flying, we've been kind of somewhat, in one essence, narrow our services, limited to few projects. We became Immigration Department of Justice accredited agency since 2008. Since we started our agency, we've always been providing immigration services, but in order to provide on the appropriate level, so we have been through the training, got accreditation, and that's right now is one of our major programs in our center. Second program that we run is behavioral health and mental health services, which again we've been licensed since 2013 and became a community mental health clinic where we provide mental health counseling to the refugees. Predominantly our clients are Russian, Ukrainian speaking, even though language is not limited here. Just what is good about that all our counselors are bilingual, bicultural. So it's easy to break down stigma from the clients and build rapport and provide services so that they open up more easily than using service provider with interpreter. Another service that we provide is parenting education, which again is critical knowledge to the refugees, because the way we raise children in our country and the way the children are bringing here in the US is different, especially when we talk about a discipline. There's a huge difference. So we have to educate both service providers and as well as families how to raise properly a child in the US. Then we have some social services, not many right now, as I stated, that we have narrowed down mostly to immigration and mental health, but we still run the social services where we work with youth and elderly, especially elderly, because elderly population in the US is getting isolated and has many issues, so we run congregate meal program for them, we run enhanced fitness, nutrition education, stuff like that. And we were excited about the latest program that we do in partnership with SNASHI and Ukrainian Association is helping to getting Ukrainian refugees into US and building a Seattle sponsor hub. Under this program, we provide support to the sponsor, to the existing sponsors who already sponsored refugees in the US. So we help sponsors identify resources, connecting them together, building a network among themselves that they could share their experience, share their knowledge, as well as we provide services to new arrived refugees, and especially when we are accredited to provide immigration services, so we have with employment authorization, various immigration forms. So that's kind of, what are we doing and how are we doing, and briefly about Ukrainian Center. You see some pictures. That's how, in the beginning of the full-scale war, we collect some bulletproof vests, sitting there. This is a group of new arrivals. Actually, this is about a year, 3-4 months old, when the first refugees crossing Mexican border, and they just didn't know how to complete form. There was not help available, so we help them in the groups where we put them on the desk how to complete the form, that individual report after they complete it, make sure the form is correct. And this is distributed with the help with AT&T, laptops to new arrivals, and so on. So I could talk a lot, but it's not the point of Ukrainian Center, but we're excited what we can do, how we can help sponsor, and we have legal assistance available if some sponsor needs helping with completing application, which is not so difficult to do actually. And again, with a great partnership with NASHI and Ukrainian Association, we could provide these services in much broader level. So that's kind of about the Ukrainian Center. My contact information. If someone has questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
If you take the time to write down the information, if you have, especially legal questions and just any questions, you can use the email to contact Oleg and their team. And next,
wait, don't take no.
Okay. I looked at you. I was like, you can just take it.
It's much easier to take a photo.
Right, and just look at it. So the next organization, I'll skip to the next slide after, is going to be talking is NASHI Health Board. Tamara is going to talk about their organization, how they can help you and support you on the journey again. And did you? Sorry, my bad. There you go.
I'm good.
You can change it. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Tim, thank you so much for coming. We're really appreciative of your time. And I want to talk a little bit about our organization. Our name is NASHI Immigrants Health Board. NASHI is translated into our community, our people. That's why we chose the name, because we want to be involved in our community, and our members are all from the community. So we would like to partner with Ukrainian and Russian-speaking communities as an established health board, which is a model that brings people from the community into the health board to talk about what issues are most important to them related to their health, so that we can advocate for those and we can actually connect people to resources. And then we're looking at this through a lens of health equity and social justice. Our information is not accurate. We have some new contact information, but if you would like to contact me, I am in the role of executive director now of NASHI Immigrants Health Board, and we also have a new program manager who can help with any other communications via email. So I can give that information, since we have some information back. We are primarily started during the COVID-19 pandemic because our community needed vaccine support and education around vaccines that are important for health. And so we got a grant from the Department of Health. And then that was right before the war started, and we pivoted because our community had built some trust in us in going out into the community and providing resources in language that were culturally appropriate to support them to get that health care that they need. So we were able to pivot into supporting the newest arrivals from Ukraine and providing them, since they have the most needs. So we kind of pivoted into, again, a social justice lens. A new refugee has the most needs of the population at this time. So our programs are pretty vast. We started a needs assessment during COVID, and we're continuing to collect data so that we know what is the demographic of our people, who's coming, what are their age ranges, what are their most important needs. We keep coming back to mental health as an important need that people are reporting on the community assessment, because that is a huge gap right now. We also have community health events focused specific to health, for example, the COVID-19 vaccine and doing education around that. We have vaccination fairs. We provide translation of Ukrainian vaccination records from Ukraine into English, and we can input them into the Washington state system. And that is called Vax for School. So we have information around that people can just scan, and then they mail the record to us. We translate it, put it in the record. So we've done over 1,000 of those since we started. We're promoting and supporting sponsors for United for Ukraine in this partnership, which is really exciting. Our staff is comprised of people from the community who speak English, Ukrainian, and Russian, so we're able to meet the needs of our community during events because they are able to do that and communicate with us. We also contributed to an open source information resource, which is called Metut. Metut means we are here, like we are here for you. And this website is now connected to Welcome US and this program that we're talking about today. We also have a lot of colleagues from the Department of Health that have formed a former Soviet Union work group, and they bring ideas and barriers to care from the community that they hear, because they're all in the health field, so that we can kind of troubleshoot how to help the needs that we're seeing. And then we are starting a new grant so that we can provide emotional support to our community, since the community assessment is saying that there's great need for mental health resources. So we provide a number of resources and have an email that people can ask questions to. We have expertise. We have medical doctors, nurses, and other medical providers that are helping on our team in that regard in terms of those medical issues. So I would be happy to answer questions and have some resources about our organization in the back. Thank you very much. Coffee?
Yeah, so again, if you have any health, especially health-related questions, you can talk to Tamara after the event ends. I think as she said, the information on the screen wasn't correct, so you don't really have anything to take a picture of. You can email Tamara too, but she can give you all the information after the event. Any health-related questions will be answered by her. So I'll talk shortly about our organization, Ukrainian Association of Washington State. And we've been around for more than 50 years now. And before the war started, it was Ukrainian Association was the goal is to keep the heritage and the cultural and spread the cultural awareness of Ukrainian culture and just maintain it here and spread it, and we strive to unite the Ukrainian-American community. So we're like a link that connects Ukrainians and Americans and Ukrainian-Americans around here. We organize cultural events that are very popular and big in Ukrainian community, and that's the one that help people find each other, and also attending the events helps especially refugees find their community. And so we have educational affairs where we help Ukrainians something that we started as the war started is supporting the newly arrived refugees, something that we didn't do before the war. And so the educational affairs help the community help the community learn about how to improve their resume. So, for example, we have resume workshops, and just how to integrate into the society here and find their footing in a completely new environment. And some political affairs that we have is that we also address the issues that we have representatives on the political and so I will talk a little bit more about humanitarian aid. Is something that Ukrainian Association did a lot during the war. Is we supplied Ukraine with medical equipment, and we did a big, I don't know if this doesn't have but we helped a lot with the humanitarian aid since the war started. We did a lot of fundraisers and supplied Ukraine with medical equipment, and just supported them in any way we can. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, so but I'm not going to talk much longer. But the next page is we have our email too that you can contact, and we have a large following on social media among the Ukrainian community. So something that you can also reach out to, and you can contact us. We can direct you in how to get supported in.
Oh, good.
So next, we don't have the slide for that, but Tim is going to talk. He's a representative from USCIS, and he's going to talk and answer. I think that's something you're going to be very interested in, and ask some questions. He's going to talk about United for Ukraine program and answer any of your questions. So Tim.
Thank you for coming. Just by a show of hands, how many here today are thinking about being a supporter for United for Ukraine process? Okay, a few hands. Okay, so first, my name is Tim Parsley. I am a community relations specialist with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. We are the agency that processes the form that kind of kickstarts the process for individuals, Ukrainians who have been displaced by the Russian invasion, to come to the U.S. And what I do, I go around and I meet with different immigrant communities, immigrant serving communities, to talk about the work that USCIS does, and to receive feedback and hear questions and concerns about our work. So what I want to talk through with you guys today is just what the process is, the Uniting for Ukraine process, and then how to get started if you are interested in being a supporter. So first things first, when did this start? This started in spring of 2022. President Biden announced Uniting for Ukraine. And this is, as I mentioned, this allows for individuals to be paroled into the United States for a temporary period of 2 years. In that period, which I'll speak to in a moment, individuals can receive employment authorization to work in the United States, and can also receive benefits to assist them and help them as they navigate life here. But the thing that kickstarts this process is the filing of the Form I-134A. So those of you who are thinking about doing this, that's the first thing you do. That's the first step, is filing that Form I-134A. I do want to note that over 100,000 people have been paroled into the U.S. under Uniting for Ukraine, and the Seattle area is the third, or rather Washington State is the third highest number of parolees under Uniting for Ukraine country. Yeah, that's terrific. So, we have a very large Ukrainian community here, but it's also a very welcoming state, a welcoming community. So that is wonderful. So in order to participate in the Uniting for Ukraine process, you have to have a supporter. So there needs to be someone here in the U.S. to say, I want to support this person, I want to walk alongside them once they're here and help them navigate life in the U.S. And that includes saying, hey, if they need help financially to be sound and solid on their feet, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to support them in that way. So who can be a supporter? Basically, if you are in the U.S. In lawful status, you can be a supporter. Okay. So if you file this I-134A, then we're going to vet you. We're going to do a background test, and we're also going to assess whether you have the financial means to support individuals who are paroled into the U.S. So more specifically, U.S. citizens, nationals can be supporters. If you're a green card holder, if you're a temporary resident, you can be a supporter. Non-immigrants and lawful status can be supporters. Asylees, refugees, other parolees. If you are a DACA beneficiary, or if you have temporary protective status. So that's pretty much everyone in lawful status in the U.S. can be a supporter. Who can be a beneficiary? So you want to be a supporter. If there's someone that you want to support, who can be a beneficiary? Ukrainian citizen and their immediate family member. Person has to be displaced as a result of the Russian invasion. Has to be physically outside of the United States, and needs to be able to travel to the United States to be considered for parole at a port of entry. So that's at the airport, and CBP, Customs and Border Protection, they oversee our ports. Anyone who is under the age of 18, so a minor child, needs to be traveling with an adult. And every single person, it doesn't matter how young they are, they can be 2 years old, 3 years old, 85, every single person needs to have an I-134 filed for them. Okay, so every person in the family unit. So, beneficiary eligibility requirements. This just a little bit more detail into what it is that we need to see. So this needs to be someone who has resided in Ukraine before the Russian invasion through February 11th, 2022, and displaced by the invasion. Must be a Ukrainian citizen with a valid, unexpired passport. And if you're not a U.S. citizen, must be an immediate family member of a Ukrainian citizen with a valid, unexpired passport who is traveling with Ukrainian citizen. As I mentioned, children under 18, you need to be traveling with a parent. There are also vaccination requirements to participate in this program. So beneficiaries, so people who have had I-134As filed on their behalf, it's measles, it's COVID-19, and when they are here, they also need to receive a vaccine. And we're also going to be vetting the beneficiaries before they are admitted into the U.S. So those are all kind of different markers, different requirements that the beneficiaries must meet to participate in this program. Okay, so I work for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That is one of the immigration agencies in the Department of Homeland Security. There are two other immigration agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. So USCIS, my agency, the role that we have is to review those I-134As that the supporters are filing. We're going to check all that information in there. We're going to do security checks. We're going to do background vetting checks. Once we've done that, and once, I'm fast forwarding a little bit, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the process, but once someone has started going through this process, Customs and Border Protection, another agency within the Department of Homeland Security, is going to also review it, and they're going to be the ones who are going to be actually issuing the travel authorization. So, like a document that people may use to travel to the U.S., they'll present to Customs and Border Protection at the port of entry, okay, at the airport, and they will be making, they'll be doing the stamp, they'll be actually paroling the individuals into the U.S. Also, financial suitability. This is another thing. We're not looking for an exact amount. We're not saying you must have X number of US dollars, you must have this much in your bank account in order to support something. We are using the federal public guidelines as a general guide. Emphasis, you can see the bold, that's a general guide. And also, with this I-134A, we need to have one name on there, okay? So this is one person who's on that I-134A saying, I am the supporter, I am the advocate. However, maybe you are a part of a church and there are a number of you who would like to come together and to support a family. You can do that, pool together those resources to really provide wraparound support in a way, provide that financial support, but really, really walk alongside this family or this individual. You can do that. It's just, there needs to be one person's name on the I-134A as the supporter. Couple things, I mentioned this kind of in passing. I can speak to it later and answer questions about it. But when people are paroled into the United States, they will be what we call employment authorized incident to parole. It's kind of immigration jargon, okay? But basically what that means is as soon as they're paroled into U.S., we're gonna give them this piece of paper that has language on it that says individuals can present this with their I-94, which is an arrival document that we give individuals, and they can work right away, okay? But they still need to apply for an employment authorization document. We are now, as an agency, we're processing those pretty quickly, but just know that if you are considering supporting a family or individuals to come here, and live here, they are, the adults are authorized to work right away, okay? And providing financial support is very important. The willingness to do that is very, very important. But also, really walking alongside these individuals and saying, I want to help you find housing. I want to help you if you need medical equipment. Maybe someone's expecting. Maybe there's a health issue that folks are dealing with. Walking alongside them, helping them navigate, life here, because I only speak one language, okay, and I cannot imagine what it would be like to have my entire life just uprooted and be planted in a place where you don't speak the language. And so that is part of where you come in as a supporter, and helping people navigate life. So, process overview. So, I'm a very visual person. So, I just wanted to kind of eagle eye, give you a view as to what the process looks like, and then I'll talk about it in a little bit greater detail. I'm going to be a little repetitive in some of the points that I make, but I really want you I really want to drive it home, the different elements of this process. So first, this is you, okay, the supporters. You go into USCIS.gov, and if you don't already have a USCIS online account, you create an account. This is online, it's all online, there's nothing paper about this process, okay? So you submit that I-134A, and then what's going to happen is the individuals who you want to support to be paroled into the U.S., they're going to receive an email with instructions, because they need to go in a USCIS online account, and they need to do stuff on their end, okay? So they're going to confirm their biographic info. They're going to confirm their information, and then they're also going to attest. They're going to say, I am eligible for this. I am a Ukrainian national, going down, who's been displaced by the Russian invasion, going down the list. We want them to complete those required vaccines on the front end. They're going to attest that they have received those required vaccines on the front end. We're not going to ask them, show us proof that you've done that. We're asking for honesty here, that folks have completed those required vaccines. And then we're going to receive that, and then CBP is going to review that information. Then they will issue the travel authorization within that USCIS online account to the individuals who are seeking to be paroled into the United States. You, as a supporter, you are not going to see that travel authorization, okay? That is just for the people to be paroled in. They have 90 days upon receiving that travel authorization to travel to the U.S. To a port of entry, okay? And they're going to present that travel authorization along with the other identity documents to a Customs and Border Protection officer at the port of entry. They're going to review it, and then they're going to make the parole determination. Okay, individuals who are being paroled into the United States through this process are being paroled in for a 2-year period. I believe Oleg mentioned that there were individuals. We have a pretty significant number of individuals here in Washington State who were paroled into the U.S. before this process was stood up. And those individuals were paroled in for about a year, and they've had their parole extended for an additional year. But when you're paroled into the United for Ukraine process, it's a 2-year period of parole. Okay, so this is the text version of what we were just talking about in that visual. So again, first step, you file that I-134A online for each beneficiary. You will receive a receipt notice through your online account for each form that you submit. Again, so if a family has a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, you're submitting an I-134A for them too. And if it's confirmed, the I-134A is confirmed. If we review it, we confirm it, the supporter is going to receive that confirmation notice in their email. Okay, so it's really, really important, and I'll speak to this again and are trying to support individuals, have them paroled in, please, please, please make sure that you take your time when you enter in that information. Because if you enter in the incorrect email address, then that family, that individual, they're not going to receive that important notification from USCIS, and that's going to further delay things. So when the beneficiary receives that email, they're going to go in, they're going to create that account, submit the biographic information, confirm the biographic information that's in there, submit vaccination attestations. Again, that sounds like you're submitting paperwork or something. You're just clicking and saying, I've received my vaccines. You're submitting minor eligibility attestation, so any minors in the family, and you're going to submit that to us, okay? And then CBP, Customs and Border Protection, they are going to review the information in the system as well, and they're going to provide that travel authorization information, travel authorization document to the beneficiary, to the family. Beneficiaries, okay, this is an important point right here. It is free, it is completely free to you, if you are interested in being a supporter, to file that I-134A. However, when it comes to traveling to the U.S., the beneficiaries are going to need to arrange their own travel to come here. And so, perhaps you as a supporter are able to arrange support in that expense in traveling to the U.S., but that is an important piece here, is that, if you receive that, I am not going to try to make this more exciting than it is, and I'm not going to go into painstaking detail on every single step, but I do want to just highlight some important points on this. We do have a pretty helpful video on our YouTube channel, on USCIS, on our YouTube channel. I would invite you to check that out if you do want to look at the not so exciting step-by-step stuff. And I am going to point out some resources that you may check out later. But if you are interested in getting started on this today or tomorrow, first thing you got to do is create that account. So you just visit www.uscis.gov, and in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, there is a little drop-down box. Just says sign in. You just click on it and create an account. Okay, that's how you get started. When you click on that, you are going to be asked to select your account type. Okay, and you are an applicant, petitioner, or requester. That first bubble, that is what both supporters and beneficiaries are going to be selecting in the system. It's also really important that you save your code and your password, okay? Because we have to have passwords for everything, it seems, and I am pretty bad at remembering them. So if you're anything like me, if you're any bit like me, I would encourage you to make a note of that, to save it, so that if you're having trouble, getting into your account, you have that to point back to. Once you've created an account, you're going to be directed to a page that looks just like this. And welcome to the USCIS online account. Get started with filing that I-134A. It's just you have these different options at the bottom. Add a case to your account, file a form online, enter a representative passcode, verify your identity. You want to file a form online, okay? Again, that I-134A, filing that, it's all online. There's not a paper-based option to do that. Okay, so completing the I-134A, again, I'm not going to go through this step by step by step. I want to make sure that we have time for questions. But I do want to, again, highlight and underscore some important parts of this. So one of the things that's really important, and we just sent out kind of a stakeholder alert, the agency did on these points. We're seeing a lot of typos, okay, in the filings that we've seen as of late. We're also seeing some duplicate filings, okay, and I want to kind of just very briefly kind of explain why we believe that we're seeing that, okay. So, as I mentioned, we have this parole process for Ukrainian nationals who have been displaced by the Russian invasion, okay. This was the first kind of humanitarian parole process like this through the USCIS online account that we set up as an agency. But there are also challenges in other parts of the world. And so after we stood up this Ukrainian parole process, we stood up a parole process for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. There is not a monthly cap for the number of parolees that will parole in Ukrainian parolees. There is a cap of 30,000 for this other parole process for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. But when this process, United for Ukraine, first stood up, that was it. So we were reviewing these, we were processing them pretty quickly. But now we, as an agency, USCIS, we've received a tremendous volume of I-134As for individuals from these other countries who are experiencing hardship. And so I say all that to say that we have many, many more cases before us now as an agency. People are having to wait longer for these to be reviewed, okay? So it's all the more important that if you are going to file the I-134A, that all of these pieces here, that you triple check that information before you click send, because it's already taking us a little while to review them, and if something's incorrect here, it's going to take even longer. Okay, so you've created an account, you have your information before you, you're ready to triple check all the information that you're putting in there. When you get into the system, there are 8 different sections. I'm not going to go through all 8 different sections, but I want to speak to a couple of the sections and just things that are important for you to note. So financial information. We are, though we're not looking for a specific dollar amount in terms of your resources, we are going to ask for some personal information regarding your finances so that we can make an assessment to determine whether you are able to support individuals who are coming into the U.S. So examples of the kinds of documents that we're going to be looking for here, a letter from a bank officer, an employment letter, recent tax return, proof of your lawful status in the U.S. And for each kind of document, there are detailed instructions that are kind of embedded within the system, kind of explaining things and unpacking it for you. Uploading evidence. We are going to ask you to upload evidence using what we call the evidence uploader. We were really creative when we named that. But we're going to ask for JPEGs, so like photo files, and the maximum file size is 12 megabytes per file, so pretty big, but just again. When you are uploading this evidence, when you're uploading this documentation, be sure that all of the evidence that you want to include to support your filing, make sure that you have in fact uploaded it, okay? Because what's going to happen again, thinking about not wanting things to be delayed anymore, if USCIS, if we see your I-134A package, that's been submitted into our system, and we don't have all the evidence that we need, we're going to issue you, within your USCIS online account, we're going to issue you what we call a request for evidence. And all that is it's not, you can't be a supporter, it's not something that you need to be greatly concerned about. It just means, hey, we don't have enough information from you to make a decision on whether you can in fact be a supporter for this family or for this individual coming to the U.S. So when you're using our evidence uploader, really creative name there, when you're using the evidence uploader, just take your time and be sure that you're uploading everything that you want to upload. If you want to communicate with us regarding the status of your case, the status of your filing, if you want to, perhaps after you've clicked send, you say, oh my goodness, I did make a mistake on the email address. We're going to ask you to send us, we want you to send us a secure message through your online account, just explaining what happened, that you submitted the incorrect email address, or whatever the issue might be. But if you do that, we want you to make sure that it's really clear, that you tell us what the incorrect email address was and what the correct email address should be, okay? And so that's how we kind of untangle that. That's how we correct it. If you need technical support, maybe you're having there's a technical bug or technical issue within the account, where you could just go to uscis.gov and type in our search box, you could type in technical support or need help or something like that. That will route you, that will direct you to the page to fill out the web form and get information. But if you are going to submit a secure message to us, perhaps you want to check in on the case status, maybe there's been a mistake on the I-134A, we're going to ask you for a receipt number. So when you file that I-134A, we're going to issue you a receipt notice, and on that notice there is going to be a unique identifier, and that is the receipt number. So just have that ready and input that if you're going to send us a secure message, because that's how we look it up in our system, and it just better ensures that you're going to get a timely response from us. You guys have been so patient. I'm almost done, I promise, and then I'll be happy to take questions. This is a whole list of resources. Those of you who are taking pictures, this is a good slide to take pictures of just some important resources that we have on our website. And I think, if I had to pick one, if you are interested in getting going on this and getting started on it, if I had to pick one place for you to start first, maybe you're like, man, Tim, your presentation rocked. I don't have any questions. It's all up here now. Great, you can just go online and create an account and get going. But I would encourage you, if you want to revisit some of this information later, visit this website right here, uscis.gov/Ukraine, okay? And all of this information that I've been walking through with you, it's all there. And you can scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page, and we'll have a drop-down box that has some different resources in different languages. It's kind of buried, but we have a frequently asked questions page. And so if there's a question, a burning question that you have about, what happens next, or what should I do in this situation, the answer to that question is probably in that frequently asked questions page. So uscis.gov/Ukraine, that's a good place to go to out of this whole list of resources. But I want to underscore one point on this, and that is, when people are paroled into the U.S., and I can't just overstate this, I can't say this enough. As your supporter, it's really important to truly support these people once they're here. We want to make sure that, and this isn't just applied to Ukrainian arrivals, this applies to everyone. We do not want them to be taken advantage of in any way and just kind of left out there in the wild, okay? And so we have so many people here in Washington State. It's one of the great gifts of being in Washington State is we have a lot of wonderful organizations that are willing to support you as a supporter, to answer some of the questions that you may have, immigration-related questions. And so Oleg mentioned Department of Justice recognized organizations. Ukrainian Community Center of Washington is one of those organizations. There's a lot of other organizations too. And these are basically organizations where the Department of Justice has reviewed the applications that they submit, and they've said, these people have the training and the character and fitness to provide good support, good care, good information, and they're not going to take advantage of people who are seeking help and support. And so if you are listening at home, or those of you, if you want support down the road in navigating this, I would encourage you to seek support from a Department of Justice recognized organization. And lastly, I think Oleg or someone else may speak to this, but the Office of Refugee Resettlement has funding to support Ukrainian parolees when they arrive to the U.S. between February 24th, 2022 and September 30th, 2023. And this funding can be used to support things like housing, ESL or English classes, trauma and support services, community support, childcare, those types of things. And so, just word of encouragement, if what I've shared with you feels like a lot of information and I just threw a lot at you. Thousands of people have done this all over the country, and thousands of people have done this in our state. And so you're not kind of stepping into uncharted waters here. So if this is something that you're interested in doing, it can be done, and there's a lot of information and resources out there to help you do just that. So, is it? Yes?
I just wanted to add to that everything you're saying is really to support the sponsors, and that's, you had mentioned that our organizations, that's what we're here for the smaller questions around local things. We have a sponsor toolkit that has specific checklists and things and information that people would need. So that's why we're here too. And we're supporting all of you in the ways that we can. So we can be reached out to around specific questions and confusion around things that we can help with.
Yeah. Thank you for reiterating that and sharing that. Yeah, this is not, and believe me, like there's. I represent the agencies that's processing these I-134As, but there are so many organizations out here, right here in this very room, who are willing to support you in this, and you are not alone in it if it's something that you want to pursue. So please take advantage of that support. The agenda, is it time for questions? Is that okay? Yes.
I filed Form 134A about 8 days ago for family 3.
Okay.
I'm not going to hold you to this answer,
Okay.
but how long do you think it's going to be before they get communication asking for their vaccinations and how long before the process would go to approval? And I'm not holding you to the answer.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're not. It's hard to say, and I'm not gonna give you some sort of talking point. It's just it's hard to say. When this first started, it was happening in a matter of days. Yeah, but now it's taking a little bit longer. Yes.
From my experience, like when we filed first months, it was like 3-4 days. Now, based on the clients, the friends that I filed for, it's like not less than 3 weeks. Usually, like 3 weeks plus.
That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I have a practical question in terms of sponsors who already filed form and families arrived to the United States. What is the period of time when your Ukrainian families live in housing of the sponsor? Is it any limitations or not? And are there any responsibilities of sponsor if a family, for example, have some car accident or issues because lots of people, they are really take themselves far away being the sponsor because of thinking of those responsibilities and high risk, and if you can highlight maybe it will be useful. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so you look like you had a burning thing to say.
No, I think you can answer this question, and I think we decided that it would be better for the next speaker to.
Oh yeah.
No, go ahead to answer this question, and then maybe we'll take all the questions at the end.
Totally.
Just because of the time limitations.
Yeah, that's great. I think on that I-134A that people are filing when they submit, they're saying, I would give these people the financial support. It could be, if you have a big house, it could be providing housing for them under your roof. It could be helping them find housing. But it's, every situation is unique. People are quirky and weird, and we all have our quirks. And I think it's hard living with other people sometimes. That being said, just anecdotally, I've heard from folks who are really, walking alongside Ukrainian arrivals here. Some of you in the room who they file that supporter, they file that I-134A, and there are challenges, and the family's just off to kind of navigate this and figure it out on their own. And so we're really asking the U.S. government, we're really asking people when they file these I-134As, it's like an integrity thing. We're asking people, hey, are you promising that you're going to support these people? And so there's not some enforcement mechanism like, hey, you said you're going to provide housing and you're not, we're going to come after you. But it's just, again, to put it in perspective and think like, okay, this is a family, they might have limited English language abilities, and they're now out trying to find housing in an area where housing is really expensive and trying to figure out how to get their kids enrolled in school, and there's just a lot to navigate. And so we're asking people to stick to that promise. But yes, sorry, I jumped the gun on this, and we can take questions out of the next presentation.
No, that's good. I think we'll have.
You should leave that up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll have Chris from Welcome Circles present, and then in the end, hopefully we'll have time for more questions. And also feel free to reach out to us, email us. We might be able to answer those questions later on if we can't answer them right now. We're here for that. We're here to support all the sponsors through this process. So please email us if you have any more questions. But hopefully we'll have more time for it.
My name is Chris Kohler. I'm the Director of Missions and Immigrant Affairs for the Archdiocese of Seattle. I just want to apologize because I failed to confirm what tech we were using, and I dropped my presentation on a thumb drive. I should have checked that out. And in the interest of having time for questions, it's just as well. So I'm just going to do a more bare bones presentation. But I want to thank NASHI and the Ukrainian Association and the Ukrainian Community Center and the library, not just for inviting me to come and talk today, but for everything you do. And I also want to just, call out USCIS for putting together this process. It might seem complicated or involved, but I've been working in immigration for 30 years. This is one of the simplest immigration things, and put it up so fast for so many people. So, anyhow. So yeah, I work for the Archdiocese of Seattle, and we have this Welcome Circles program, which in other places is more commonly called Sponsor Circles. It's a joint project. The USCIS is the Catholic bishops of the United States. There's a migration and refugee office there that we work with, one of the largest resettlement agencies in the U.S.
Move a little bit over there so the camera can also catch it for people online.
And really, if there's like one thing, you should take this down or take a picture of it. Amy Nash is our coordinator for that program. And I will say that. So, what is a sponsor circle or a welcome circle? So the Archdiocese of Seattle, Western Washington, 144 parishes, dozens of schools, and other types of organizations like St. Sister Paul and Catholic Community Services, the largest social service provider in the state of Washington. Our job, my office, is how do we get the 650,000 Catholics in Western Washington energized, excited, inspired, and engaged in immigration issues. And Welcome Circles is one way that we do that. So a Welcome Circle, basically a group of anywhere from 5 to 20 people. Now most of our Welcome Circles are through parishes, Catholic parishes, but we work with any. Not all of them are. Not all of them are Catholic or Christian. And a Welcome Circle, there's training available or required. There's a certification process that the Welcome Circle goes through that is done through USCCB and Community Sponsorship Hub, which is part of Welcome US. On these online trainings, and not just about this process, but about how to be an effective Welcome Circle. So what we do is, someone will call me from a parish, say, and they're like, well, we want to do something we want to sponsor Ukrainians. I'm like, okay, first thing you got to do is get at least five people together. Now, most of those groups are probably about a dozen people, but it ranges from 5 to 20. They make these commitments to sponsor, to fill out that I-134A. So there's one person in that group who fills out the form, and usually it's families, so they're filling out the I-134 for each of the family members. We have connections on the ground in Poland that help us to connect with families, and so by the time the family arrives, they already know a couple of people from the sponsor circle, from the Welcome Circle already. And it's great. The most recent one who arrived, they saw each other for the first time, in real life, and they just ran, the sponsor and the mom just ran and hugged each other, and it's so incredible to watch that happen. So 5 to 20 people, and it's usually, we look for people who, they come from a variety of backgrounds. So someone, retired nurse in one of the prisons, a realtor in another prison. But people bring all of this knowledge and skills, and oftentimes when we're talking to parish groups who are interested, they'll be like, you do all this stuff. I'm like, they have everything, every single time. Everything that's needed in order to be successful, it's right there. And we do help people through the entire, we help these groups through the entire process. We shepherd them, or mentor them, or guide them, right? So, person's filling out the I-134A, and they always want to know, am I actually including enough documentation to show that, to get this approved? And, I mean, we've done it now so many times, right? Or they'll say, sometimes it's this thing with these names, right? Like, you want to make sure that the name is the name on the passport. But when you're just talking with people and getting to know them, they may share names that aren't on the passport, right? Middle names or family names. So we help, and we have, through USCCB, we have this monthly, sometimes every other week, workshop for people who are filling out, sponsors, who are filling out that form to answer their questions, do just what you were talking about here, but actually, virtually sit down with people and help them through the process. Amy will actually sit down, if a sponsor really requests it, sit down with that sponsor while they're filling out the form. Because there's always questions that come up, right? Because even though it looks straightforward, they're like, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. So we help these voters all through, from meeting the family and getting to know them and getting connected to filling out that form. And part of getting certified is to have a welcome plan that addresses all of these issues. And so, you welcome the family, right? It's just the beginning. And I will, and actually I want to thank USCIS and you in particular, Tim, because you've been helpful for, I know Amy has talked to you a few times, especially when there's like the name isn't the same name as the passport, what do we do, what's the process for this, or something else, or why is this particular I-134 that I filled out, why is it taking longer than it's taking others, right? And so they're, your local provide great support for us, so I just want to thank you for that. And also, just USCIS in general. The welcome plan is how they're going to help with all of these things. So these circles have raised on average, well not on average, anywhere from $10,000 to $75,000 to support a family. In one instance recently, the circle had a luncheon at the parish that raised $7,000 to support the family. That's money for direct support. That's not like the salaries or anything else. That's to pay rent, to rent is a big part of it, but also while people are waiting to get jobs, most of these groups provide cash assistance. So they do all of these things, right? They provide cash assistance, they help them to enroll in some of the benefits that Tim was talking about, both the federal benefits for through the refugee assistance program, but also state benefits, enrolling, always line up housing before they come. So we only do hosting as an emergency short-term response. So by the time the family arrives, we basically require all of these groups to have housing set up. And when you have when you have a realtor part of your group, they are fabulous because they know all these landlords. And we have gotten, I can't tell you landlords, one landlord donated an entire apartment free for a year for a family of 6. Another, or others will do reduced amounts, like 50% of what they normally charge. Help them find jobs, help them make connections in the local community, both to the Ukrainian community, the people you remember all the time. Because it's you gotta get connected. Even if you don't think you need anything from them right now, just connect with them. But also we help people, lots of people, Ukrainians are part of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, right? Which is not the Roman Catholic Church. which is what we're part of, and although very closely connected. But not all of them are Catholic or Christian, and part of what these groups do is help them to find their faith community, if that's what they want. Enrolling them in healthcare, helping be a cross-cultural guide to things. Friendship is just a huge part of it for us. Enrolling kids in school or helping them to find adult English classes. Helping to get a Washington State ID or driver's license. Now here's the thing, let's say you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are a welcome circle. So you're going to help them enroll their kids in school, and you're going to help them connect with DSHS and get their benefits. And you're going to help them get their Washington State ID. So it's like, it doesn't work for everybody in the group to try to do everything. So, and there's a lot more here, but I'm not going to go into it because I really want to just have some time for questions. We currently have 21 circles, which, it's basically 21 families. About 150 people altogether, not counting we do it, I keep telling these circles, they'll be like, well, can you help us find financial support? And so we had this one-time fund that the USCIS was through two donors. We were able to just give every circle $5,000. And then a week later, another one-time fund popped up. And so we're looking at being able to provide a lot more money or the same amount of money to a lot more circles. And I just want to say also, just kind of FYI thing, this Welcome Circles program with the Archdiocese started with the Ukrainians. But when the Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans became eligible, we expanded to that as well. And now we've also expanded to just people who are coming up from the border and seeking asylum. So we have a couple of parishes that are helping asylum seekers. Most of our circles are supporting Ukrainian families, but we do have some that are doing these other countries as well. And I'll just wrap up by saying, Amy, what her job is to, from the beginning, when some group or individual says, I'm interested, through and continuing on as they do all of this stuff. She's a resource person, she helps them through the process. She's there to help that welcome circle and that family be successful. I'll just leave this to the side so you can see that.
Right, so how much time do you think we have this room till 1 p.m., so we still have some time for questions. If you're not in a rush, please feel free to ask any questions now to Chris or Tim or to us. If any
questions to Tim.
Yeah.
Alright, I write them down. I know it's kind of random. So you mentioned that the beneficiaries have 2 years since the entry, since the inventory withdrawal, right? So
Correct.
that means, let's say the family arrives on July 1st, they have 2 years to stay in the country legally, they have the right to work, they have the right to education, all the stuff. What happens after 2 years? I know it's an open-ended question. Do those people right now have any legal way of staying in the country? Let's say the war ends 6 months from now. We'll hold that, right? We don't know that. Are they eligible to stay in the country past the end of the war for 2 years, or if the war ends and everybody say like, okay, we're done, go home?
Yeah, great question. I have no idea. That's the short answer. The longer answer is there are conversations that are ongoing about what the future may look like, and once an individual is physically present in the U.S., they paroled in parolees have the right to apply for asylum if that is an avenue that they're interested in exploring. But just know that there are conversations light years above me.
I know, that's what I'm saying. This is probably not, this is somewhere in the Congress and stuff. But here's the thing, like, for example, is in Ukraine right now, even if the war ends tomorrow, a lot of infrastructure, especially in the northern eastern Ukraine, is destroyed. There is very hard to survive. So that's why, basically what I need to know is that for 2 years, they have the right to stay in the country, no matter what happens, because it may take some time for the country to be rebuilt, to be able to go back from it.
Absolutely, yeah. If someone is paroled in for a period of 2 years, they're...
And then that's 2 years automatically for everybody who comes into the country.
That is, under the U4U process, yes, people are generally paroled for 2 years.
Understand. So if the family comes in January 1st, they still have 2 years versus so it just depends on the time of the entry. It doesn't depend when the war starts.
Correct. It's when they're admitted that when someone receives that stamp, when they're admitted to the U.S., there's what's called a class of admission code. Okay, and so people who are paroled in under this process get a stamp and CBP officer writes in UHP, so Ukrainian humanitarian parole.
Thank you. I'll go with the the house the family determines. If the family consists of family members, let's say grandmother, a daughter, and then a couple of adults, kids, right? Do they all combine together, or do they have to be under 18 and like an immediate family? Because if it's like an extended family, like a mother-in-law and a daughter and like her 2 kids.
So how is it determined?
Like, let's say if I'm the sponsor, right? Can I support all of them together as a unit, or do I have to support them individually?
You have to, great question. Yeah, so you have to file an I-134 for each person.
Right.
And so there was an issue I saw recently where a child, mother and a child came to the U.S. The supporter filed an I-134A for the mother, but just assumed that the child was covered under that. And so what happened was CBP said, well, to the mother, I can parole you in for 2 years, but the child, you didn't follow the process, so I'm paroling you in for a year. So you can imagine that's going to be a headache downstream, down the road. And so yes, if you're
all the family members,
all the family, if as a supporter, you are making a decision as to who you are supporting within that family unit. So it may be that just financially, and these fabulous welcome circles that Chris is speaking to, maybe you can't support everyone within that family, but maybe there's someone within a welcome circle within your community who might be able to support and walk alongside those people and file I-134A for them.
Okay, thank you. And then, so if the family right now is in the other country, right, because my friends, they're refugees, but they're right now in European Union. And if they have a refugee status, that still does not, that they can still come to the U.S.
If you're physically outside the United States and someone files an I-134 for you, then
they can still come in here. And then you mentioned that there's a funding available until September 2023. Is that the funding that, for your refugees' families?
You are so amazing. You're asking all the great questions, the hard questions too. I'm glad you're asking them. This is something that's actually come up recently in different conversations and community forums that I've sat in on. And you're right. There is Congress has provided funding to support these individuals who are paroled in through September 2023, and that's another one of those million-dollar questions. Like, what does the future hold beyond September 2023? I don't know. The U.S. government has been very supportive of the Ukrainian community through this United for Ukraine process. I myself am being recorded. So, it's been encouraging, how quickly this process was stood up and how well it has worked. And so, I think this is me speaking, not USCIS, I think that, you know, there's going to be a continued desire to be supportive and to provide support for individuals who come here, but, you know, I think that's up to Congress and the people who make the decisions.
Is there a place to see all the services that are available from the government and from the state for the refugees?
The refugees,
All the programs that they can.
yes, there are places to see that. I think as far as for individuals who come here, I would, these links down at the bottom, this would, you know, take a picture or visit these resources. That would be a good place to look and see where those wraparound support services are. But, you know, Oleg, Ukrainian Association of Washington State, Nashi, Chris, and the Welcome Circles, you know, they would really be more dialed in on those.
Yeah, I'll.
It means for the resources from also the refugee resettlement, they appropriate money to the state. Our state had the Office of Refugee and Immigrant Assistance, who make these funds available to different contractors to provide various of services, social services, employment services, housing services, medical, you name it, they have it. So you're welcome to check the resource from the Washington State Office of Refugee and Immigrant Assistance. They have a list of all contractors who provide services.
Thank you.
I have a question in terms of asylum. So for those families who have made a personal decision that they have the target to stay here, do you advise them to apply for asylum? Knowing the fact that after 2 years we don't know what will happen and what kind of legislation will work.
So the thing about applying for asylum is, if you want to apply for asylum, you know, there are two different types of asylum. There's affirmative asylum and there's defensive asylum. If you want to apply for affirmative asylum, you need to apply within 1 year of arrival to the U.S. You know, as to whether they should pursue asylum, and you know that is a very personal decision as to whether to. A lot of people want to have legal support to navigate that process, and so you know there are over 100,000 people who have been paroled under this process, and I think you mentioned, you know, looking into the future as to, you know, rebuilding Ukraine after this is all over, hopefully soon. You know, I don't know what the future holds. So in terms of whether someone would like to choose to apply for asylum, that is within their right to do it. But as to whether, you know, that's just something that they're going to have to gauge, because there are a lot of people who are in this position who have been paroled into the U.S. And so there are conversations that are ongoing about what the future might look like. And you know, that's long-winded, and I didn't really say a whole lot, but just know that this is questions being asked at very high levels about what the future is going to look like. Yes.
I have two fast questions. I got many questions about the vaccination, because 11th of May, the U.S. government, for the tourist visas or something, like, we don't have to show proof of vaccinations anymore, but it still works for Ukraine, correct? Like COVID vaccines.
Correct. That is still a requirement, and you know, I know that there is some hesitancy about related to vaccines within the Ukrainian community, and you know, all that I know to say is that, you know, within this process, within the system, every step of the way. So before you receive that travel authorization, and then once you're arriving, we're not asking for you to submit proof that you've been vaccinated, like show me your sticker or your card or whatever. We're just asking for people to attest and say, yes, I have done this. That being said, you know, it's talking about downstream. You know, what if, let's say, hypothetically, you know, let's say that there is some sort of avenue for permanent status lawful permanent residents down the road, and have people been honest about their vaccination, earlier on in the process? It's just, these are just things to consider and to think about. So, but we're asking for people to just be honest. They don't have to provide paperwork. Yes, ma'am.
Tim, I just wanted to speak to that piece,
Yeah.
since we do collect a lot of data in
That's-
our sheet
Yeah.
for the vaccination part. It's true, what Tim's information is true, but when people get here and need specific things, so if they want to enroll their children in school, there will be requirements for specific vaccinations, and they will not be able to continue in school if they are not vaccinated, which is, a big kind of incentive to get those kids in school and keep them in school. And the second piece to that is if they want to apply for a green card eventually, they themselves will need to meet the vaccination requirements of the United States. So just letting people know that, that's something to think about, even if there's nothing's being assessed at this level, that to have them, motivate to do that, because then later on it, gets harder, and there's a lot of data around the low vaccination confidence and the hesitancy pieces.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that's all wonderful points. Any other questions?
Hey, thank you for what you do.
It's really an honor, and I tell you this with the work that I do, I'm just humbled every day, because I meet people who are really out there having the conversations day in and day out, so it's really a blessing and a gift to support them and to get chances to talk with people like you who are thinking about these things. So thank you for your time.
All right, if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank you again, Chris, for your great presentation, and Tim, for your presentation, for everything that you're doing for the community. That's really big. And for all the sponsors that are thinking about it and that are doing it, it's a lot. It's a lot for the Ukrainian people. You just know that. And if you're looking at it online and you have any questions, please email us. There are emails on the screen and right here. If you have any questions, please reach out. We're here to support you. We're here to support you through this process and get you what you need. Okay, so thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to